Time to get into our deep dive. We got Tim Graham of The Athletic covering everything Buffalo Bills with us. Tom and Phil here with us as well. And Tim, I look at this Patriots team this upcoming season and I say this is probably going to be a bridge year for them, just specifically looking at this offense. A lot of questions on that side of the ball, but also questions with who's leading the offense from the sidelines and calling the plays. But just how far is that gap between the Bills and the Patriots going into the 2022 season?
Well, I'm hesitant to say because probably the safest bet in all of the NFL last year was that the Bills would breeze to the AFC East Championship. And there was the New England Patriots still lurking around in December after that. You just showed the highlights, that embarrassing Week 13 loss in which Mac Jones threw an entire 3 times for 19 yards. And then the next week, the Bills go down to Tampa Bay and suffer a heartbreaker to old friend Tom Brady. And you have a situation where the Patriots are still very much inside the Bills' heads. And it took those subsequent victories over the Patriots in Foxborough and then no punts in the 47-17 game in the playoffs. So those last 2 games created some distance. And I think that Bills fans love the idea of Matt Patricia calling the plays or whatever's been going on there in Foxborough throughout the summer. Bills fans are excited about it. But there's so much psychological damage that has been done over the previous 20 years that I don't think that anybody is taking anything for granted in regards to the Patriots being in a rebuilding year or a bridge year or anything like that. They are still public enemy number 1, the team to beat.
Curran, I'm surprised to even hear that because I take a look at the Bills and I say that they are just so far from this Patriots team, just so far ahead. But how big is that gap right now, even with all the question marks out there in Foxborough?
Yeah, when you look at the talent, I don't care if it's Pro Football Focus or ESPN or the NFL Network, whoever comprises or compiles their lists of the best players in the NFL, if you're going to find a Patriot, he's going to be between 70 and 100, and some places there won't be a Patriot at all. It's pretty much self-evident that the Patriots roster right now is lacking in talent. Additionally, the sidelines, you got Bill Belichick's giant brain, and then a whole mess of question marks. So I think the gap is sizable. But for Tim, it's interesting to hear that because not only is it the 20 years of New England, but it's the previous 10 years when the Bills were loaded to the gills with so much talent, and they'd find a way for something to go wrong, whether it was a lost helmet or a wide right or you name it. And there must be just mounds and mounds and mounds of scar tissue there.
Yeah. That's absolutely right, and I'm not even from here, although I'm from Cleveland, so I can understand the language being spoken here in Western New York. But that's exactly right. However, I said those things, and I wasn't saying them facetiously regarding the Patriots still haunting the Bills and their fans. The Bills are clearly the best team in the AFC East. I think they're the best team in the NFL. I think they deserve to be the betting favorites for the Super Bowl. I believe that Josh Allen deserves to be the betting favorite to be the MVP this year. They are that good. Coaching staff stable. Granted, they lost Brian Dable, but everything has been orchestrated. So Ken Dorsey comes up through the system to replace Brian Dable. They're going to be running the same offensive system with the same calls, the same checks, all that stuff. So this is a team that is loaded and stable, and that's incredibly potent in the National Football League.
Tim, I take a look at this Patriots team and how people are looking at this offense and looking at Matt Patricia potentially being the play caller this upcoming season. And a lot of people looking at this team, scratching their heads, and they're saying, I don't know, like, is that going to work? Is it not going to work? But, Tim, what is the outside view of this Patriots offense coming into this season?
This is where the fans are excited. You know, they're rubbing their hands together like a plotting evil genius. You know, they love what they've been seeing out of the Patriots this summer. The offensive failures. Matt Patricia with the pencil behind the ear, looking like he's confused half the time, and maybe he is based on the product that we've seen so far. Of course, it is preseason, and as Tom said, Bill Belichick's giant brain. It's a proven commodity, and who knows what he has up his sleeve. And I think if you're a Patriots fan, you're hoping it's a whole heck of a lot. But I think from Western New York's vantage point, they like what they're seeing out of the New England Patriots. And Mac Jones, as good as he looked last year, I think that there would be an awful lot of surprise if he's able to have the same success with the proverbial rug being pulled out from underneath him with McDaniel's departure.
Phil, how vulnerable does this make the Patriots? Just hearing what Tim has to say and the Bills fans rubbing their hands together with Matt Patricia calling plays, just how vulnerable does that make the Patriots heading into this year?
Well, the Bills are clearly the best team in the division, and I'm with Tim. I think they're probably the best team in the league. But when you just look at that specific matchup, New England-Buffalo, Buffalo, you could argue, has gotten even better than where they were last year. They add Von Miller. Sounds like Gabriel Davis is ready to make a real leap in terms of his production within that Bills offense. And meanwhile, here in Foxborough, the Patriots lose their arguably best defensive player in J.C. Jackson. They lose their best coach outside of Bill Belichick. The gap was what it was last year, Tom, and it doesn't seem like it has been narrowed at all in one offseason's time.
Which makes me wonder, and I guess I'll flip this, Amina, to Tim, if I can. If the Bills don't win the division, what happened? What will be the smoking gun? Could it go back to some of the dysfunction we've seen over the last week? I mean, with the Matareza situation and the fallout from that has lingered, what would be the smoking gun that would prevent the Buffalo Bills from winning the AFC East?
I will say this just real quick. I think that one thing that the Patriots do have in their favor regarding this matchup against the Bills is that they don't play until December 1st. And then they play again in the regular season finale. We talk about Bill Belichick being able to make adjustments at halftime, for crying out loud. This guy can make adjustments in 3 months. So he'll know an awful lot about his own team by then and of the Buffalo Bills. So there's that ability to transition, at least in terms of this particular matchup. But what will happen, I think, a serious injury to Josh Allen. He is that good. He is otherworldly. I think that he's the best quarterback in the NFL, even despite the fact that he's never won an MVP and he's only been a Pro Bowler once. I think that he's just emerged as the remember when Randall Cunningham was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the ultimate weapon back in 1989? Well, add 2 inches, 25 pounds, and a willingness to truck a linebacker, and that's Randall Cunningham, what you need to equal Josh Allen. So if Case Keenum needs to come in and play quarterback for 6 weeks, that could be a problem. But otherwise, I think that it is again for the second straight year a safe bet that the Bills win the AFC East.
The Patriots have always been the big brother of the AFC East, and now those roles are changing in that division. But, Tim, just how much has that fear of the Patriots waned, not only with the departure of Tom Brady, but also now with the departure of Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, I think you have to feel good if you're a Bills fan, because not only is the team really good, it's really young. And there are players who are the core of this team who have what you would think to be 3, 4, 5, 6 in the sense of a quarterback, because they can play deep into their 30s now, a long time still left in their prime. The problem becomes keeping the team together. Josh Allen's big contract kicks in next season. So you're going to start losing players, particularly on offense. It's what Patriots fans lived through when Tom Brady emerged and became great. You shifted from a team that was focused on defense, and then you have to pay the quarterback and all the people around him to protect him. Your offensive linemen have to get paid more. The weapons who you throw and hand the ball to need to get paid more, and the defense suffers. We see it, probably the best example was the New Orleans Saints when Drew Brees was there, constantly mortgaging their defense for the sake of getting Drew Brees another opportunity to chase a Super Bowl. So as long as the Bills can manage their cap, I think this could last 5, 6, maybe years, even longer. But let's not fool ourselves into thinking that just because the Patriots did it while the Bills were suffering for 2 decades, that just because it's your time doesn't mean you get the same amount of time that the Patriots had. And I think that there's Bills fans feel that way. Like, all right, it's our time. We're going to just dominate for the next decade. The Jets are getting better and the Dolphins are getting better. And I don't think that we can count the Patriots out forever either. So this is going to be a very fun division in the coming seasons.
Well, the Bills are coming off an impressive season. Let's take a look at the Ford Big Board. Built for America, built Ford proud. Last year, they went 11-6 to win the AFC East. They lost that epic game to the Chiefs in the divisional round. Their offense ranked 3rd in points per game. from points per game scored and had the best defense in terms of points allowed. So, Curran, I want to start with you. You heard what Tim had to say, that this Buffalo team could be dominant for maybe 5, 6, 7 years down the line. But how firm is that grip that the Bills have on the AFC East?
Significant. I mean, I would hate to call it a chokehold because, things do change quickly. And Miami is getting better. I think people forget that we're talking about the Bills as if the Patriots are nipping at their heels. Miami's a better team than New England. They've beaten them, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4?
Yeah, when Brian Flores was there, but
he's got the Mike McDaniel thing. He keeps harping on that.
Pretty significant change.
I don't know. He's got to be that as it may. The Bills will have it until further notice because I really think that Sean McDermott, for as much of a hardo as he can be, has really infused that team with a culture that they've really embraced.
I give him a lot of credit, honestly, because I remember being in Buffalo for that wind game where Mac Jones threw it only 3 times, and Sean McDermott looked like he had just about lost his mind after that game. He was frustrated. He was not hiding it at the podium. He looked rudderless. But then his team ended up going on the run that it went on and getting really close to a Super Bowl. So I think McDermott belongs to be in the conversation among some of the best coaches in football.
And Tim, I mentioned that game between the Bills and the Chiefs last season, the 13 seconds that will haunt Buffalo fans probably for the next couple of years. But when you take a look at this upcoming season, why is it Super Bowl or bust for the guys up there in Buffalo?
Not for the next couple of years. I had a member of the Bills Super Bowl teams who was on the roster. He was on the sideline because he was a starter. He wasn't on the kick team, who actually saw wide right the day after 13 seconds, said it was the most heartbroken he's ever been after a Bills loss. And this is the guy who played in all 4 Super Bowls. So this is a lifetime pain that the Bills fans are going to have to live with, and the organization, until they get to or win a Super Bowl. Probably going to have to win it all to really erase what happened after 13 seconds, because they had that game won twice in the last 2 minutes. But I think that they're going to need to shake that off. I mean, that's still something that needs to be shaken off. We talked about how the Patriots beating the Patriots 47-17 in the playoffs could exercise some of those Patriots demons. But this is a team still that did not come within a game of the Super Bowl last year. We kind of remember that as the AFC Championship game, but it wasn't. They reached the AFC Championship game 2 years ago, did not reach it last year. So they have a lot to prove for being a Super Bowl favorite.
Those 13 seconds still hurting Bills fans up there. All right, thanks so much, Tim.